Hello and welcome to today's web conference. This is Dynamics 365 Fast Track Tech Talk. Today's topic, driving user adoption. Presenting with us from Microsoft today, we have two senior Fast Track program managers. We have Alok Singh and we also have Robert Rensen. And now it's my pleasure to hand you over to your first speaker. Alok, you now have the floor.
Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, everyone, for joining this. And we're really excited to bring you this new tech talk on driving user adoption. This has been one of those areas where customers have been asking us for content and guidance. So with that request and due to the demand, we have put together this new tech talk. Our focus is going to be talking about it's we call it a tech talk, but it's not really a technical topic that we're discussing here today, though it does impact your solution and some of the decisions that you make during your design phase. So let's talk a little bit about the objectives, what we want to cover today. So the duration is 2 hours again. We should be able to wrap up most of this content in 1 hour or 1 hour 10 minutes, and we should have sufficient time for questions, I'm certain. And the primary outcome of what we're looking to get out of this session is really to understand, what are those key areas or key things that I need to know when I'm building my solution, or what are those things that I can do beforehand to make sure that the application of the solution that I'm building on top of Dynamics 365 will be adopted by my end users. And most of these concepts actually apply to any business application. It's not really specific to Dynamics 365, but we're going to take Dynamics 365 as an example when I'm trying to explain some scenarios. But yeah, these are, I would say, broader concepts that can be applied to any business application. We'll also look at the means, how you can measure the active usage, what are the solutions that we have out there, and then we are also going to share some of the links and resources that we have on training and adoption that Microsoft already provides. So with that, again, very happy to bring this new tech talk to you. And as Debbie mentioned, if you have any questions, you can put that in the chat window. And my colleague Robert will try and address those. Or if it requires a detailed explanation, then we'll keep it till the end, and we'll be able to talk through it. So with that, again, let's get started and. Really, this is one of those topics that we are really happy to bring to you. So to start off with, we are going to talk a little bit about the usage and adoption overview. What exactly is adoption, and why all of a sudden it's so important? Because I come from a consulting background, and I know that for us, project success was all about building the right solution, make sure you meet all the business requirements, and once you go live, everything is running well. So that's success, nothing beyond that. So we're going to talk how the definition of success is slightly beyond that, though all those things are important and we need to still do all of it. But even after a successful go live, it doesn't really mean that we are successful if our solution doesn't get adopted by the end users and the users are not happy using it. So just to provide an overview here, so end user adoption is really the key to achieving the goals that you initially set out. So the business or the product owner, when they started off with the implementation, you usually come up with a set of metrics or KPIs that you want to improve with Dynamics 365, and end user adoption is the key for you to be able to even measure or understand if it had an impact on that KPI. Because if people don't use the system, there is no way you're going to know if my KPIs have improved or not. So that's the biggest factor I feel for success of any business application or any deployment. what it takes is really successful adoption requires a very structured and it requires effective change management process. Now, when we say change management, again, there are customers who have broader teams that are doing change management. Some customers just have one person who's responsible for it, and some customers just think that the training that you do after they go live in the first couple of weeks, that's change management. So yeah, it really varies from customer to customer. And in this session today, maybe we want to touch upon some of those things, what you can do to enable adoption, or what your team should be thinking of. And while I'm going through those topics, you can also think and analyze, am I doing these things or not, or should I start doing it, or how well are we doing, or are we preparing for adoption really? So it's just that we want to surface some of the topics based on the issues that we have seen in our past projects. What are the things where customers go wrong, and how it shapes the overall perception that the end user has about your application. So it's primarily non-technical. Some of the aspects are going to be related to business. What are the responsibilities from the program team or from a business perspective, how they should be looking at adoption. And then we'll also talk about the solution aspect of it, where we will look at when you're designing a solution, or when you're making those key decisions regarding the maybe the technical design or the overall architecture. What are the things that you should be taking into consideration, and how building a end user focused or a user focused system can really help drive adoption. So that's another thing that we will cover. And at the end, we'll also show you some of the tools, how you can measure the usage. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat window. And whatever your ideas are to improve these at the end of the session, please provide your feedback, and we'll be happy to add more content, remove content, or whatever the change that you want. So with that, I just wanted to also cover what are the key steps for successful adoption. And again, adoption, like I mentioned, for some customers, it's just doing the training after you've gone live. So I've trained the people; they know how to use the system. So go on, start using it. But in most cases, that doesn't work. Just because you have built a new system and you have deployed it, you've gone live with it, doesn't mean that users are going to jump onto it and start using it, right? So it's usually not that easy. We hope it was, but it takes a lot more than that for your end users to really get excited about this and start using it, and get value out of the system that you have built. And that's the reason the adoption is not just or the adoption planning is not just a one-time activity, but it should be an ongoing process. And we'll see why, and especially it's more and more relevant when it comes to cloud services. And even with Dynamics 365, that we have an update schedule where every 6 months or at least once a year, our customers are supposed to take the update. And with that update, we bring in a lot of new enhancements, new features, improved user interface, and all of that needs to be communicated and managed through your change management adoption planning. So the first step really is to plan. When a new project, or when you're starting a new program, the question to ask is, how much of budget did I actually allocate to adoption activities? Was that even thought of? Because usually it's just the training budget, right? But the adoption as an activity needs to have a broader impact, and it's more than training. So was adoption planning done at the beginning of the project? And do we understand what will it take for users to smoothly move to the new system, or adopt the new system, whatever you're building, or move from an older system? So that initial planning, and this has to be again very specific to the customer, because you best understand your user base. If they're geographically located in different places, what's going to be the strategy? What's the average age of your users, right? How comfortable are they with accepting change? And so a lot of those factors come into picture, and that's where having an initial plan is really, really important. And we'll talk about what you should take into consideration when you're doing your plan, and that'll be covered in the key adoption areas. The next one is to be aware. Like I mentioned, be aware of what are going to be the potential barriers. And again, there are a set of potential barriers that we see, but some of them can impact you more, some may not impact you more, based on your user base, and what type of employee engagement do you have within your organization. And finally, whatever your plan or strategy is, execute it. Whether it's training, executive messaging, creating a reward system for your users, and then have a way to measure it, most importantly, because whatever the adoption plan or the adoption strategy that you've been executing, what is the impact that it has had? It's very, very important to measure which part of the application or which are the processes within the application that are being adopted, which are the processes that are not being used so much, and if so, then why? Can we simplify it? Can we change anything with that process? So understanding and measuring the adoption is super critical, not just at a high level as to these many users actually logged in, but also try to understand after they logged in what they do, which are the processes with which they're spending maximum time, and which are the ones that they don't care about. And once you have that information and visibility into how the system is being used, then you can go ahead, refine your strategy and your approach, and then go back and reiterate, go through the process again. And this is not just one-time activity. Like I mentioned, this is an ongoing process. It's very important when we're doing our initial deployment, but every time we do an update to deploy a major change, this has to be followed and taken into consideration. So again, it's pretty generic as a process, but yeah, we just wanted to put it out there to just draw the bigger picture of how you should be thinking about it, and how it's an iterative process, really. So moving ahead, this is where we're going to be talking about the code adoption guidance, and what are those key areas, and the way we have come up with these areas, and the guidance is based on the experience, and what we have seen with some of the customers. And if they would have focused, or they would have done more work in those areas, then the outcome or the end user adoption could have been different. And it's most of this content is based on the experience that we have. So we see that these are the 5 key areas, starting from business, and when I say business value, it's how well you have defined your initial goal of implementing Dynamics 365, your KPI, success metrics, etc. That definition is I would say very, very foundational, because all your adoption goals and everything else is gonna tie into that. And having a clear strategy, or even a roadmap, if you're trying to do it in multiple phases, is very, very important. And then you'll see that how your strategy and roadmap will align to different user stakeholder groups, and what you need to do with each of those stakeholder group, and how you need to approach them for adoption. So having that initial the business value discussion, or getting your strategy and KPIs defined, is very important. We'll go in each of these areas in little depth and talk about it. The next one is data and functionality, and this is where I think it's more of a solution based thing that you need to consider when you're doing data migrations, or even when you're doing integrations. You need to think about, because the overall solution that you're building, if it doesn't meet the expectations of the user, or if it doesn't work the way users actually work, then the adoption is going to suffer. We have numerous examples where the solution was well built, everything was fine, the go live was great, but the data migration that was done, maybe some of the field mappings were wrong, or the data age was not accurate, and just because of that, users didn't adopt the system, because they could never trust the data that's there in the system. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you should be looking at data, and the overall functionality, and what are those key areas of pitfalls that can impact adoption and become barriers for your end users. We're going to be talking about usability, and again, usability is not just the application navigation and UX, but also understand what are the expectations of the end user as to where they want to access the system, how they want to do it. Are they on the move all the time and they need offline capability, etc. So how well do we understand those user needs, and are we catering to those or not? And we're also going to be talking about performance. And I think this is big because if you go live with a system where opening a form takes 10 seconds, then users are going to be unhappy and they're not going to go back to that application. And we'll see what we can do in terms of performance and reliability, how you can take a lot of action beforehand, even before you go live, because many of the performance issues that we see could have been easily avoided beforehand, and you don't have to wait till you have gone live and you see all these issues surface. Because if there's a script behind the form that's causing slowness, it was slow even before you went live. So focusing on some of the non-functional requirements, how that can impact the adoption. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the application reliability and how your communication strategy can actually help set the perception or improve the perception about your application with your end users. And finally, we'll get into the adoption enablement, and this is where we want to talk about the user training, the communications, or how the executive messaging can play a key role. A little bit on the super user networks and your internal help and support practices. So yeah, with that, I think these are the 5 areas where we have seen that if we give more attention to these and think about this from the beginning, then adoption we can eliminate a lot of adoption barriers that we have seen customers have after going live. So what we'll do now is we'll go deeper into each of these areas. We'll look at some of the recommendations, and we'll take it forward from there. Maybe also look at a couple of examples. So business value, and within business value, I mentioned that it's all about defining your business case, having a clear strategy. So have a clear goal when you're implementing Dynamics 365. What is it within your business, or which part of your process do you want to improve? Is it the sales pipeline, or is it the time taken to close your case, or what exact improvement are you looking at? Or and having that understanding is very, very important, and that needs to be a part of the roadmap that you have as a customer for the product. And again, there's product roadmap, and we can help you align your goals and your roadmap with the product roadmap. But it's extremely critical that you have defined what you want to do with Dynamics 365, not just in the short term, but also going forward, how you want to see the application transform and maybe bring more users on board. Have a change management strategy. Again, when I say change management, this term has been used, I think overused frequently. We always keep hearing about it, but having a real change management strategy that is tailored for your users is super critical. And having a clear budget for it. I've seen instances where there was no budget to start off with for adoption itself, and there's no way that you put all your money into customizing, building a solution, but if you don't do anything for users to adopt it, then it's just going to be built and it's going to keep lying there, and nobody's really going to log in. So having that is super important, and yeah, that's one of the key things. Defining the measurable success KPIs, and the key word here is really measurable. A lot of times projects are implemented, we want a better view of our customers, we need to get a 360-degree view of the customer, but exactly how that 360-degree view is going to impact your business, what are the KPIs that it's going to improve? Will 360-degree view of the customer improve your sales performance? Will it reduce the time it takes to close an opportunity, or will it bring in more leads? Those are the KPIs that you need to define. And if those KPIs are not defined and clearly listed out as your success metrics, so you see where you're currently today, and after this implementation, where you want to be with those KPIs. That definition is very important, and you'll see that how business defining these KPIs will eventually will eventually impact the end user adoption, because these KPIs will actually map into adoption KPIs. And also have a way to regularly measure these KPIs, right? I mean, it's not just enough to define them, but as a part of your implementation or the solution that's being customized, have a way to constantly report on this and understand how these KPIs are shaping up. It might take 3 months, 6 months to see the difference. But yeah, have a clear visibility into your business KPIs that you initially started off with. The next one is executive sponsorship and business alignment. And again, the IT and um, business alignment is something that which is very, very frequently spoken of. Yes, the IT and business should be aligned, but we'll see that how that can become a major challenge if you don't have the executive business sponsor or business completely involved into your project. It's extremely important that whenever you're starting your program, you have someone from the so if you're implementing Dynamics 365 for the Salesforce automation SFA, you might want maybe the sales director or someone from your executive to actually be a part and be an executive sponsor for your program. In that way, they'll understand what are their responsibilities as executive sponsors. They need to actually get involved, be aware of what's happening, interact with the middle management and the end users, whether it's through maybe your monthly town hall or even through even through emails, how they can communicate and make an impact on adoption. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the adoption enablement area. But to start off with, it's very important that for your program, you have someone from the executive leadership and from a business perspective who's involved, watching over, and involved in the complete life cycle from starting till the end. It's not that you get your business or executive sponsor only after you have gone live. No, they should be a part of the program from the onset. You can also invite them to some of your critical demos even before you have gone live. Share with them the results that or the feedback that you've got from users from UAT. So the more you have your executives and your business engaged, the more comfortable they will feel to engage with your end users and communicate with them. So that's a very critical thing that we need to always focus on. That plays a big role in aligning IT and business, because usually if just business gives the requirements saying that I have this process, implement it, go live with it. So IT is just going to take the requirements and work with it, and all the focus is going to be on meeting those requirements. But the bigger impact or the bigger picture is the IT and business should work together and actually delivering a system that meets the end user's expectation. It's not just about implementing the requirements that the business gave, but it's also to question if it is something that will really be adopted or used by the end users or not, and does it meet their expectations. So I think that's where IT and business coming close together and working for the user can change everything. So build a solution that keeps the user at the center of the design. It's not just about building what you're asked to, but be a end user advocate and raise questions when you think that you're trying to build a process that's so complex that users are going to be confused or they're not going to use it. So yeah, that's executive sponsorship and business alignment with IT. And finally, user adoption goals. It's very important that initially when the business is doing their goal definition or when the success metrics are being defined, we are able to translate those success KPIs into the adoption goals. So if I have to improve my sales performance by X number, it means I need to close my opportunities quicker. Instead of they taking 2 weeks, I should be able to close them in 1 week. But for you to really know if your opportunities are closing in 1 week, how frequently do you want your end users, or how frequently do you want your salesperson to go in there and update the information, or track the communications that they are having with the customer, so that you have a better visibility into the process, and you're understanding really that after implementing this, my speed of or my velocity of my opportunity has actually improved. So you have to define the corresponding adoption goals for all of your success KPIs. So an example would be, I need the salesperson to be able to come into the system and update their opportunities once a week, twice a week, and this is what they should be updating at this frequency. And we should tell them what and when, but the most important one is why. So tell them why and what value it brings to the business and to them. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in the adoption enablement, that how the end user value is extremely important. And we should also have a system in place to measure the usage and adoption. And this is, again, not as much as tracking people or seeing how well they're adopting, but it's more to do with actually understanding how well our users, as a user base or a specific stakeholder group is adopting the application. And it's also to provide them more visibility into how they are using it. So if I'm a salesperson and if my dashboard says that these are the 3 opportunities that I was supposed to update last week, and if it shows up as red on my dashboard, then obviously it triggers me to take action and update that. So surfacing that information and designing a system in a way which will make your end users actually go in and take action is very important. So measure and surface that information to the end users for them to be able to take action. So yeah, those are some of the things that we should be doing to start off with. And I really think that this business value piece is going to be the most fundamental pillar based on which you're going to have to then do the technical solution, etc. But without this, it's very difficult to get the adoption right. So hopefully this was helpful, and we will now go to the next section, where we are going to be talking a little bit about data and functionality. And now you see we've transitioned from the business side to a little bit on the solution side, and what are the pitfalls that we have seen with when it comes to data and functionality, really. The first one and the biggest one is, I think, data. I have seen numerous projects where the adoption has suffered because of incorrect data migration. And when I say incorrect data migration, it can be something as simple as maybe something changed. You did a cleanup on data, or you went through a scrubbing process, but users are not aware that how the data changed. A place where instead of Microsoft, you're using MS, and if that's not agreed upon, and then even your data cleansing can confuse users. So it's very important that when we are doing the data migration, you have the users on board. Try to involve some of the like we say, the super users or some of the people from your community early on to do the validation of your data migration, maybe even in the UAT or the test environments, so that it looks familiar to them. They understand what is there, they understand the format, and they're comfortable with it. Define the data age plan. And when we say data age, we usually assume that if an activity is 1 year old, it's closed, we don't have to migrate it, right? Or if it's 2 years old, let's not migrate it. But that assumption that we make related to data age, what we are migrating, what we are not, and what's the process if I need to go and look at the data that's older? Is it, will I still have access to the older system or not? So defining the data age plan in agreement with the user is very important, because if they are using some kind of historical data to work day to day, it's not documented anywhere in your process. But if that's how the end user works, and if that information is missing from the new system, they are not going to like it. They're going to have to go to a different system, or if they completely lose visibility into that old data, they're not going to like the system, and it's going to impact their perception of the new system. So it's a great opportunity when you're doing data migrations or moving to a new system to actually clean and scrub your data and bring everything in a common format. But again, that's something that we should agree with the users and make sure it works for them. Data integration and visual and UI integrations. Again, these are important, because we know that integration may not be straightforward. It can be expensive and time consuming sometimes. So consider things like visual data integration or UI integration to bring the data from other systems, even though you're not actually copying it over to your Dynamics 365 database. Avoid the context switch of users having to switch between multiple applications, look for the information elsewhere, and update things. So a data that meets the user expectations in terms of availability and quality is very important. And data actually shapes the perception of your system with your end users. So yeah, I think that is a big point that we wanted to cover. And process and integrations. And usually what we've seen is when you're creating a new system or implementing Dynamics 365, even though you're trying to maybe model your existing business processes in there, but usually it's an opportunity where these processes can be streamlined and they might change a little. And communicating that with the users and making sure that they understand that after we have moved to this new system, how has the business process changed, if it has, and they need to be aware of it. And it usually does, because the perception that they are coming with the older system or the process, they want to see the older system in the new system. In most cases, that's how users are, because we inherently don't like change, right? We want to keep doing the things exactly the way we did before. But telling them that we have further simplified, we have reduced the effort, and how the process has changed will make a big difference in how they adopt it. And if there are expected integrations, if there are some key line of business applications that you need to integrate with, without which the users can't really work, then do it. It's not something that maybe you want to push it out thinking that we'll do the integrations later, because if you don't have those integrations and if the user doesn't have all the information that they need to work with, then anyway is not going to adopt it. And even if you down the line in 6 months, if you do those integrations and if you bring in all of it, you again have to start off with the adoption effort, and you've already created a perception of your application that it doesn't work, it doesn't have all the information. So it's very important that we set that expectation and tell them if something is coming in the near future, so that they just don't they don't just completely shut and stop listening to what's happening in that application. I'm not interested. I don't want to know what you're doing. That's again important. Reporting. So usually I have I get this very frequently. Usually as a part of the project, you create dashboards, views, and the views are set up with a specific set of fields. They are sorted, what we think is right for the end users. But many a times I see users getting frustrated over the fact that this field is missing from this view. It should have been sorted on this, or I don't see I want to change the sequence of these fields, right? And it's very important that we make them aware or empower them that they have the ability to go and create their own views or dashboards within the system, because our security model actually makes sure if we have implemented the security model with the security rules appropriately, no matter what the user does, if they go and create their own views, they do advanced find, or they create their own dashboards, it's not going to expose them to any information that they shouldn't have access to. So empower them by making them aware of the customization options that are out there. They can go and create views, dashboards, the way they want. They can configure the sorting, the sequence of fields, whatever they want. And many a times we have seen that users are not aware of this, because a system view was built, they were trained to use that view, and it was with the assumption that this view is going to work for all the 1,000 or 5,000 users, but that's not the case. So make sure your users are aware of what they can do themselves, and maybe that will also reduce some of the load on your internal help desk or IT, asking them for these little changes all the time, because no matter how many times you change it, it's not going to work for someone. And again, we have integration with Power BI. So if you use Power BI to surface some of these reports, the end user has the capability to create a personal dashboard where they can look at the Power BI reports within Dynamics without having to again log into a different application. So very important. So reporting is usually looked at from a from a tracking, from a business or a manager perspective, but it's important that we build this even for the end users, for them to know what they need to do, and for them to be able to customize them as needed. Finally, privacy and collaboration. How well do your users understand that who is able to see the data that they're entering? Does the sales guy think that his peers are able to see some of the sales information, some of his leads, or not? So understanding the user's expectation in terms of privacy and collaboration. It's not just about privacy, but also the collaboration is very, very important. I need to be confident that whatever I've entered here is only visible to my manager or to the people whom I wish they should be able to see it. And if there is a requirement for me to collaborate with someone else within my organization, for example, I'm working on a lead, I need help with someone who's working in a similar industry, or who has had experience with working with such customers, I need to be able to collaborate with them. So when you're doing your security design, make sure that you also take the collaboration requirements into considerations. Usually the security part is good. We know how to restrict a lot of things. We do that well. But where I've seen people fail is not think about collaboration needs. And as humans, we need to collaborate, right? And being able to easily do that while still respecting the privacy requirements is extremely important. And again, if you have more questions there, or if you need to know more about the collaboration capabilities, you can work with Fast Track, and our program managers will be able to assist you with that. But take these factors into consideration, because they have a huge impact on how the application is perceived by end users. So yeah, with that, I think we have covered the data and functionality piece, and we will now look at the next one, which is usability. So usability, and there's a lot of feedback that we get with usability. Again, many a times the users are trained in a way that click here, go here, fill in this information, save this record. While that is good, and we still need to do that for some of our processes, the way I think is a user should be extremely comfortable navigating around the application, because a lot of things that we might have told them, click here, save here, some of those things can change a little. They might visually look different after you upgrade the system. And so if we empower our users to be able to explore and experience the things for themselves, it makes it a lot easier. They already know where to go, and maybe try out new things. So have your security configuration correct. So in that way, users will not have access to any additional data than what they need to have. And if you have that figured out, then they are actually more comfortable and free to navigate around the application and experience it the way it works for them. That's very important. The overall comfort that your end user has navigating around the application and the options that are out there is extremely important. And sometimes we hear that there are for example, in Dynamics 365, we might have sales, marketing, service modules. We are not using the marketing module. Why do I see it there? That's confusing the users. So, and I know that's natural. So we do have a concept of app modules where you can design the or customize the sitemap based on how or what you want your users to be aware of, without having to show them too many things which will confuse them. So use that functionality to be able to give a very tailored experience for your users. So for your sales folks, it'll be the app module is only going to show them the information that they need to work with. It's not going to show any additional entities, etc. And it's the same you can do with maybe different user groups that you have. So provide them an experience that's more tailored, which will also give them more freedom to go and explore, because everything that they see there is relevant to them. Again, that's to do with navigation. We also have a feature of learning paths where we can provide them more guided help, contextual step-by-step guidance, where we pop up bubbles and show them this is what you need to do next. So for areas where you need to, need them to follow that specific guidance, step 1, step 2, step 3, use our learning paths. It's a great feature that can be integrated with overlays information on top of your Dynamics 365 web user interface to be able to guide the end user. And it also has some very interesting features in terms of inline options to see the text, videos, etc., which will help them find all the training content right there within the context of the application, based on the screen on which they are. So if they're on a case form, they see the guidance for case. If they're on an account form, then they see the guidance that's related to account. So that's really interesting. And if you want to explore further, reach out to your Fast Track program managers. The next one is Dynamics 365 and Outlook. Again, we do see that a lot of customers do use our Outlook client and still using it, but as you must be aware, we are moving away from our Outlook client. It's been deprecated, and we are now recommending our customers to use the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, which is a more modern with improved user interface, and it's really a modern Office 365. It's hosted through the Office 365 store, which can be easily deployed across your users. It works on web, it works on the desktop version, and it's really great if you have your users working within Outlook and they need to track or see the information. It's not just about tracking emails, but also seeing relevant information from from their Dynamics 365 system. So if you want them to work together, then this is a great app. You should consider deploying this. Mobile and offline, and again, the mobile story, and we've come a long way. On our mobile app, it has great new improvements, and we're constantly improving the mobile interface. So you don't have to go and build a mobile app from the scratch. You can just go to the store, the app stores, download our apps, configure your instance, and start using the application on mobile. It also has some seamless offline capabilities. If your users are say out there in the field, they don't have the connectivity, or they're always not in an area with good network, they can use the offline capability, which will sync all the information later on. So again, based on your need, it's good if you want to enable mobile and the offline feature for your users. Finally, the accessibility, and this is again something that's extremely important to us, and as Microsoft, this is one of the areas where we focus on. It's extremely important to us. Focus and understand what are your users' accessibility requirements. This varies from organization to organization, and it's important that many a times customers come asking for some of the accessibility features within Dynamics 365, but because you're using a web interface, some of these can be provided by the browser, and many of those are actually controlled by the browser. Things like magnification, etc., can be just browser add-ins. So if you have any specific accessibility requirements, you need to know more about how can I achieve that, or what's out there, or if there are any improvements coming. Again, talk to your fast track program managers regarding accessibility requirements, and make sure that we are building a solution and a system that's inclusive and that works for everyone. Even some of the simple choices, like if you have customized and if you have added colors to your forms, we have to be very, very careful and make sure that it's accessible for all for all the users, and the colors look the same for everyone. So yeah, please pay special attention to accessibility and have a system that's inclusive. And we are constantly making improvements in this area to the core application. With the future releases, we are adding more borders, and just improving the overall user interface for it to be more and more accessible. But again, if you need to know more or learn more, please contact your program managers. So with that, I think that that covers the overall usability aspect, and how this can play a critical role for your end users to adopt the solution or the application that you're building. And reliability and performance. And again, this is the most common feedback that I think I've seen. Users don't like the system because it doesn't perform. The form load times are high, etc. So it's very important that you have clearly defined the non-functional requirements for your system. And just because it's an online service, it doesn't mean that it's an infinite scale. If I've written a JavaScript which has a timeout of 5 seconds before it does something, it is gonna block the user. It's gonna freeze the form. So it's extremely important that when you're customizing or building the solution, you look at the non-functional requirements. And if you have questions there, if you're saying that this specific form doesn't work well, this search functionality is really slow, you can always reach out to your fast track program managers, and they can do a user experience assessment to understand what's going wrong. You can show them what is the experience that you're having, and then based on that, we'll be able to provide you guidance and recommendations of how you can improve that experience for your end users. So yeah, it's extremely important that you assess or be aware of these response-driven issues if there are any, because many of those can be mitigated or improved even before you've gone live. So make these non-functional requirements a part of your sprint demos, and keep track of them. If there is a form that's taking too long, it's not going to work, and it's not going to be good for the end user adoption. So simplify it, and whatever the guidance you need, you can ask us, and we'll be happy to help you with that. And simple things like making sure there are no synchronous integrations that are freezing the application, or making your user interface unresponsive. So those are extremely common. We have seen a lot of issues which can be easily mitigated just by making the scripts, say, asynchronous, or even removing them using some of the features that have come in the newer releases. And service and change alerts. And again, this is a very important aspect, and I would say it's sometimes overlooked. Dynamics 365 being an online service has obviously we have planned, unplanned maintenance windows and outages sometimes, and it's very important that your end user, when he goes and tries to access the Dynamics 365 system, he doesn't run into an error on an unexpected experience. If there's an outage or if there's a maintenance that's going on, communicate it well in advance to your end users. And again, we have a communication process that'll always communicate to to your admins or global admins through the message center, or even we also send out emails to the admin email addresses that have been configured. But you need to plug that information into your own notification channels that you have for end users. Keep them updated on what's going wrong. If there's reduced functionality, or there's anything that's gone, if there's an integration that's broken, keep them updated. By providing them that information beforehand, you're actually improving the confidence that they have with the application. Just by making them aware, they're not going to be so negative about it if they go and hit that error before being updated about it. So internally have that process, and think about how you can plug in that information into your own notification channels. And if there are issues, give them a direction, wherever possible, give them a mitigation plan or alternatives, without which just make sure that we don't leave the user hanging, where they're trying to do something with the system, something is not working, and they don't know what to do next. Give them a next action, or the next best action that they can do if things are not going as expected. So awareness and communications to acknowledge the known issues and bugs. And it's extremely important that a lot of times we go live, there are bugs that we can sometimes live with. There are known issues, but just broadly communicating to your users, maybe through newsletters, and saying them that, hey, we are aware of these things, we are working on it, it'll be deployed maybe a couple of weeks down the line, etc. Just having that regular cadence of communication, either through emails, newsletters, or whatever the channel that works for you, is extremely important. So communicate with your users, keep them aware, and keep them posted about what's happening. And you can actually start this even before you go live. You can share news about how the UAT went, what are the test results. If you're doing any bug patch, we found these bugs, we have fixed them. Just create that, create an excitement around it by talking to your end users, and keeping them updated. So that'll get them more and more excited to use your application. If you don't talk to them, and if you just put it live, just deploy it, and then we go silent, then they will go silent on us. And if they have any feedback, any valuable feedback or issues that they would like to share, they will not share that. So it's extremely important that we communicate and give them a channel to communicate back with us. Finally, I think the next one is robustness. And again, this sounds like, we're talking about the design and architecture, but this can have a huge impact on the adoption. So whenever you have any integrations, and we've seen this sometimes, you might have a on-prem service that you're talking to, and that on-prem service might be down, or there might be a maintenance, and the experience that the user has with Dynamics 365 is impacted because of that integration, because something else is not working, or there's a change made elsewhere. So having simple things like retry mechanisms, if things don't happen once, maybe you can retry. And also making them aware, even if there's a related or integrated application that has an outage, or if there's anything that's going to have. So if you're updating your SharePoint, let's say, the document management is not going to be working for that window. So did the SharePoint team would have maybe updated your users, but from a Dynamics perspective, you need to again go back and communicate that your document management features might not work as expected during this window. So yeah, think about those integrations, have retry mechanisms, and communicate if there are maintenance even on those peripheral satellite applications that you have. And errors and failures. So simple things like having a more user-friendly descriptive errors wherever possible, and providing them the next best action. And something that will also help them provide valuable information to support or to your internal help desk can overall speed up the process of resolution, and can just overall be a much better experience even if things go wrong. So that's more from a reliability and performance, and a lot of this has to do with communication and proactively planning for these things. So with that, I think we'll come to the next one, which is to do with the adoption enablement. And this is where we're going to be talking a little bit about the motivation and reward. What is the reward system for your end user, or why? But if they ask a question, why should I be using your new system? We should have a clear value statement for them. What is the value that it brings to business? What is the value that it brings to the end user? Both of these are equally important. Whether it is a process that's simplified, something that performs better, or what is the value that it brings to the end user is very, very important. That it should be captured and communicated. And sometimes it can also be tied to a reward system. Maybe how frequently you log your cases, or how frequently you update your leads or opportunities. Can maybe you can have a reward system, link that to compensation if you want to, or if you don't, in every scenario it's very difficult to have an intrinsic motivator. So you can also explore solutions like gamification, where you can create a virtual or an extrinsic reward system that will keep them hooked on. So whether it is real, virtual, intrinsic, or extrinsic, create a reward system that will keep your users engaged and motivated, which is extremely important. And engage the users early on, and maybe by involving them in some of the initial sprint demos, or feedback or inputs. If you want to get some early feedback, engage your users, identify let's say early adopters or influencers within your user community, and invite them to these meetings or sessions where they can look at your application, and they'll be able to provide you feedback for things they don't like, and for everything that you've done right and they like it. They're going to go out and talk about it, and they're going to evangelize your system with others within the community. So it's really important that you pick up a set of users and bring them on board early on and keep them engaged. Communications and executive messaging, and this is just a continuation of what we discussed initially in the business value phase, that having an executive sponsor who is well aware of his responsibilities and who's well engaged into the project will play a big role in setting the stage for an application when you're going live. It's gonna set the perception right. It's gonna really encourage your users, because they know that this is what we're doing is important. It's important for business, and there is executive level visibility, and the leadership is is really excited about this, and it makes a difference to everyone. So that communication, it needs to come from your executives. So have a regular cadence of let's say newsletter or internal comms from your executive teams to the end users, talking about this application. Don't miss out an opportunity for your executives to come and talk to your end users, maybe during town halls or whatever the events that you have. Make sure you have a slot where they'll come and talk about this project. Something, it doesn't matter even if it is not live, if it is something that you're still working on, make sure they talk about it and everyone is aware. And so keep your executives looped in, keep them engaged, so that they'll keep your end users engaged, and make sure that they understand this responsibility, that it's expected of them to communicate with the users and the middle management, so that the application is well adopted and everyone knows that it's coming from the top. So yeah, I think that's extremely critical point, and it has to be there from the beginning, even after you've gone live with the project. So coming to the training and support, and I know that a lot of customers do have training plans, and they do make an effort to train their end users so that they know how to use the application. But it's just that in some scenarios, the training plans, it's very difficult to effectively train the users if you have 20 offices, and if you're doing monthly trainings, so you do your training in 6 offices, and by that time the system has been updated. So your training is already obsolete, right? You're making changes too frequently. So it is quite challenging handling the training requirement. So that's where we recommend that you look at our tools like Learning Paths that can really streamline and bring the training content and all the help within the context of the application, which is always up to date. Community of early adopters and super users, and this is a very important point for your program and for the project that you're doing. It's important to create a group of individuals who become evangelists, and you bring them on board, get their feedback, get them involved in the process while you're building it. And how do you choose these people from user community? I think the two key aspects are they have to be early adopters. They're willing to try new things early on. And they are influencers within a community who can have a positive influence on the peers and people sitting around them about your applications. And if there's within the community, if they're a hero for that application, then people would instead of contacting a help desk or support, they become the first point of contact, and users can just ask this super user sitting around on the floor of their office that, hey, can you help me with this, or what's the right way to do this? And that will make a big difference to how the application is getting adopted, and the overall perception and the mood around the application will be set positive if you have these evangelists within the user community who are on the floor and who are working with the users. Again, effective user training using the tools that we have today, have the knowledge base, help resources, all of these organized, and users should know where they can access them and how. Have a clear post go live support strategy. So you might have a partner who's helping you with the implementation, but what happens after the the production warranty support is over, maybe for 2 or 3 weeks after you've gone live? What if things break after that? So do you have a clear support strategy for long term? And also have an internal help desk who are actually aware of Dynamics 365 and who can actually help the users and quickly resolve some of the issues that you might have, or they can just guide them in the right path. So these are again some of the things that we need to think about when we are launching a new application, and what can be done in terms of enabling adoption. So from a business perspective to solution, and finally the training and the enablement. Here are some of the areas that we wanted to share with you based on the experience, where you can take actions to remove any barriers and help users better adopt it. So these are I would consider more of pointers, I would say. And again, you can go much deeper if you have questions, if you need help, you can always reach out to us. The next area that I want to talk about is measure. So we have looked at the importance of planning and all of the adoption areas, or the key areas that we should take into consideration when we are doing our planning, and how just being aware of these barriers and issues will make our plan much better. When it comes to measure, it's again very critical that after everything that we have done, after all the trainings and all of the enablement activities or adoption enablement activities, do we know who is using what and how are they using it? So that's where the measure feature comes into picture. And from we have a solution called Organization Insights that's available at the on the app source that you can easily install, which will give you a view similar to what you're seeing. What's the total number of active users? And some of the information is technical here, but I'm going to focus more on the adoption aspect of it. How many people are actually actively using your solution? When we say actively, they're making a read or an update, maybe once a month or once a week. So you can start looking at what are the most used entities. What is it that they're using? Maybe and that will give you a good idea of which are the processes that are being adopted and which are not. It also kind of creates a leaderboard of who are the most active users, and this information can be again exported into Excel, where you can slice and dice it and look at it from a different perspectives. I know that we will continue to make further enhancements to this org insights dashboard, but again, this is I think a great place to start off to understand how your adoption is going, and just to get an idea of what's being used and what's not. But if you're really looking at a more deeper understanding, then you can always go and build your own custom reports to see who are the people who are making these changes, what are the process different stages, and up to which stage, how long it takes, etc. So a lot can be done, but again, because that process is very much specific to your solution, these dashboards are more broader, generic, that work for all our customers. But if you need to understand more, then you can go and build those custom reports internally to track the adoption. If you need more help, or if you have more questions than that, work with the program manager, and they'll be able to provide you some guidance. And in most cases, it's not so complicated. It's as simple as understanding maybe the number of records that were created in last 1 week, or that were modified. So just by tracking that created on, modified on, and created by, modified by field, a lot of adoption can be assessed. What's being used and what's not, what not. So yeah, just wanted to make everyone aware that we have the org insights solution that you can start using to track the usage of your solution. And there's more that you can do out there. So it's important to measure and understand, without which you won't be able to control or improve the adoption of your solution. Again, if you need a demo, any guidance to install this, etc., reach out to your fast track program manager. They can help you install, and they can show you all of this. It's really quick. It's just a solution on our app source. And this is again one important slide where I wanted to show. Now we've spoken about a bunch of things related to adoption, what we should be doing, what are the areas that need special attention. But how can fast track help? And if you need more help in each of those 5 pillars that we discussed, starting from business value to adoption enablement, we have some of our other services that align to these, and the ones that you're seeing there in the green, and the other ones in blue are the general guidance that you can ask us, that we can provide you through our weekly touch points, or if you have questions, you can certainly reach out to us. So this gives a good picture of how we can partner and help with you to achieve your adoption goals. So whether it's your roadmap or helping defining a roadmap, we can certainly work with you on that. If you're looking to amplify your investments to the use of latest UX functionality, you can talk to us, and we can talk about what's new, or what are the updated capabilities that are coming in the near future. Data and functionality, we have a workshop and a tech talk on data migration strategy. There's also security modeling. So if you want to get deeper into the aspects of collaboration, security and privacy, ask us for that service, and we should be able to help you there. Your business process, if you need any simplification, you want to show us that, okay, this is complex, you need any ideas there, feel free to discuss that during our weekly touch points, or show us what you have, and we'll be able to provide you any guidance if we see any opportunities for improvement. Think leveraging Power BI, etc., for reporting, you can always reach out to us. From a usability perspective, I think you can, if you need help with learning paths, etc., you can reach out to us. Office groups, Yammer integration, all of that, collaboration, etc., ask us. And if you need to assess your user experience, if you're seeing that users are facing challenges, then we have something called as user experience assessment. They can ask your program manager, and they'll be able to assist you with that, where they'll ask you some questions to understand where the problems are. Maybe you can show them and record the session where you have trouble, and we'll be able to see if there's something going wrong in the back end. Analyze what is causing the a bad user experience, or slowness if there's any, and provide you the recommendations accordingly. Performance optimization, code reviews, all of these can play a big role in improving the reliability and performance of a solution. And and even in the enablement area, if you're interested in implementing an extrinsic motivator, then you can talk to us about Dynamics 365 gamification solution, which is another tech talk that we did some time back. But if you need more hands-on session, like a workshop, setting it up, etc., you can talk to your fast track program managers. So again, any of the questions that you might have to improve or to kind of assist you in any of these areas, please talk to your fast track program managers and request one of these services. Or if something is not listed here, still feel free to ask them, and if they can, they'll be happy to assist you. So I think I just wanted to put this in context and show you how we can help you. So with that, I think this is the so if you just go to our help and training center, you'll be able to find a training and adoption kit, which should give you access to a lot of content, some of the decks that can be modified and used by your training teams. You can look at our roadmap site if it helps you define your better define your own roadmap and your own business strategy. And then if you need any other, and I know that we are doing some more work on providing you more adoption help, maybe with the templates, etc., or if you have asked questions around how to do the communication templates, etc., you can reach out to us. So these are some of the resources that are already out there. If you need more, ask us, and we'll be able to we'll be happy to add more and help you with all of that. So I think with that, we've almost come to the end of this presentation. The floor is open to questions now. So if you have any questions, type it in the chat window. We'll be more than happy to answer. And hope you enjoyed the content and this was useful.
Great, thanks, Alok. So while we're waiting for those last questions to come in, folks, I would like to call your attention to the survey link that I posted in the messages window. Please take a moment to fill it out. Your survey or your feedback is very valuable to us. Please click that link, enter your email, then you'll be taken into the survey. And our voting scale is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best score possible. Be sure to click on the submit button at the bottom to ensure that your feedback has been received. And Alok, back to you. We got a couple of requests for the deck, and the directive there is for folks to contact their local fast track program manager, correct?
Yes, yeah. You should be able to get this deck from your fast track PMs, yeah.
Perfect. And then any final words before we wrap up today's event?
I think it's really exciting for us to bring this tech talk, and we're really looking at maybe adding more services and provide you any kind of help that you need with the end user adoption. And if you see the need for any additional help, content, provide us feedback first of all, and then if you need anything more, please ask your program managers, and then maybe we'll put together more talks and sessions on this topic. So I hope you liked it, and this will surface some of this will give you more ideas of what you can start doing within your organization, and how you can focus on building an adoption ready solution for your end users. So with that, really thanks for joining, and if you have any questions, put them in. If not, you can always ask the same question to your program managers, or you can ask them to connect you with me, and we can have a session and help you in whatever way possible. So once again, thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, Alok. So ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude today's web conference. Again, the recording will be available at the same registration site within 24 hours. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Alok and Robert, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.